welcome to my channel. So in the today's lecture, we are going to discuss priority scheduling. Priority scheduling. Okay, so it is one of the CPU scheduling. Okay, as it is clear from its name, priority. We are assigning CPU to processes on the basis of their priority. Okay, we have many type of processes present in our system. Okay, some processes are very important ones. Okay, so all of the processes which have highest priority will be assigned CPU first. Okay, it works on the basis of priority. The processes having highest priority will be given CPU firstly. Okay, so let me give you one example. If you are preparing for your GATE exam, okay, there are around 9 to 10 computer engineering subjects, okay, which is going to be come in your exam. Okay, like we have computer networking operating system, DBMS, compiler design, and sometimes you see question from software engineering also. So when you are preparing for your GATE exam, if you want to get good score in your GATE exam, then what you will do, how you will be preparing for your exam? You will firstly going to cover all of the subjects which has highest priority. Okay, if you study firstly computer networking operating system and database management system, okay, in these subjects many questions are asked in GATE exam. You can consider that around 10 marks from each subject you will see in your exam. Okay, so if you will want to get good score, then firstly we will focus on the subjects which are important ones. Okay, and if you look at this compiler design and this software engineering are not very important ones. Sometimes very rare you see question from software engineering. So why to waste your time on this subject? Okay, so firstly we give priority to the subjects which has highest marks in the GATE exam. Okay, we are giving priority to those subjects which has highest score in the GATE exam. Okay, so similar we have is a priority scheduling. In a computer, in a machine, we have a many number of processes running in the system. Okay, and each and every process has some priority. Okay, if some process is very important, you cannot run your system without that process. Okay, so firstly it is very important you give CPU to that important process. Okay, so that your overall system performance cannot be affected. Okay, so this is our priority scheduling. How priority scheduling is going to work? Let me give you one example. Let's suppose we have initially process ID and we have arrival time and we have burst time and we have priority. Each and every process has some priority. Okay, we have 4 processes P1, P2, P3 and P4. Their arrival time 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, this 5, 4, 2, 3. And their priority is 1, 4, 2, 3. Okay. So 1 means this process has the highest priority. Okay. This 1 means process having highest priority. As you are moving toward highest number like 2, 3 and 4, your priority of the process is going to be decreased. If your priority value is smaller, that means it is highest priority. As you are increasing your priority number, your priority is going to be decreased. Okay. So this 4 means we are having very less priority of this process P2. Okay. So I am going to discuss non-preemptive priority scheduling. Non-preemptive. Okay. So we have a many number of processes running in the system. So it is very important if you assign CPU to processes on the basis of their priority. Okay. So now let me make Gantt chart for it. Gantt chart. Okay. So initially we will be looking at the main memory. We will check how many processes are present in the main memory. We are starting from 1. Okay. So your process P1 is present in the main memory initially. Initially we have just one process present in the main memory. It is going to execute on CPU for 5 units of time. Okay. It is a non-preemptive priority scheduling. Once you have assigned your CPU to one process, okay, then this process is going to be completely executed. You cannot, get back your CPU from this process in the middle of its execution. Once this process is completed, now you take back your CPU from this process and you give your CPU to some other process. Okay, so initially we just have only one process present in the main memory, P1. Okay, how long it want to execute on CPU? We will be executing it completely on the CPU. It needs 5 units of CPU time. Okay, 1, it was given CPU at 1 and it wants 5 units of CPU. So 1 plus 5, 6. Okay, your process P1 is going to be terminated. Okay, you know what we are doing? We are having many number of processes in the main memory. Okay, just on the basis of your algorithm, you are going to pick your one process from the main memory and you will give that process to the CPU. Okay, but in this example, in the starting, we just have only one process. We had no option of choosing among the processes. We just had only one process available in the main memory and we give this process to the CPU. But as process P1 is terminating, it has completed its execution at 6. Now it is going to terminate. At this point of time, if you look at all these 3 processes has been arrived in the main memory. Process P2, P3 and P4. All these 3 processes have been arrived in the main memory. So now we have to pick one process among all these 3 processes. Okay. So how we will be picking one process out of all these 3 processes? On the basis of the priority. Process P2 priority is 4. Process P3 priority is 2. Process P4 priority is 3. Okay. So which process having highest priority out of all these 3 processes? P3. Okay. Firstly, you have highest priority of 1, then 2, then 3 and then 4. Okay. 4 means least priority. 1 means highest priority. Okay. So now we will be giving our CPU to process P3. Okay. And we are discussing non-preemptive algorithm. If you have assigned your CPU to this process P3, firstly, it is going to be completely executed. Then you will be taking back your CPU from this process. Okay. How long it want to execute on CPU? For 2 units of time. It was given CPU at 6 and it want 2 units of CPU. Okay. So 6 plus 2, 8. This process P3 is going to be terminated at 8. Okay. Now we have process P2 and P4 left in the main memory. We have to choose one process out of these two processes. Okay. So if you look at process P4 is having highest priority. Process P4 has 3 priority. Process 2 has 4 priority. Okay. Process P4 is having highest priority. So I will be giving this process P4 to CPU. How long it want to execute on CPU? Okay. It want to execute on CPU for 3 units of time. Okay. We will let this process to be executed on CPU. Okay. So it was given CPU at 8. Now it is going to execute on CPU for 3 units of time. 8 plus 3, 11. It is going to complete its execution at 11. And it is going to be terminated at 11. Okay. Next we have only one process left in the main memory, P2. Okay. We have process P2 left in the main memory. We will be giving this process P2 to CPU. How long it want to execute on CPU? It needs 4 units of CPU time. Okay. 11 plus 4, 15. It is going to be terminated at 15. Okay. So now let me make completion time, turnaround time, waiting time, and we have a response time. Okay. So let's check when our process is going to be terminated. So your process 1 is terminating at 6. It arrived at 1. Okay. As it arrived, it was given CPU for 5 units of time. So it got terminated at 6. Okay. It is getting completed at 6. How long it has been alive in the cycle? Okay. What is the turnaround time? Completion time minus arrival time. Okay. When your process arrived in the main memory, now it has been completely terminated. So how long your process has been alive in the cycle? Okay. Once it is arriving in the main memory and if it is terminating, the intermediate time we will be calling it as a turnaround time. Okay. So how long it was alive in the cycle? Your process 1 arrived at 1 and it is going to be completed at 6. So how long it was alive in the cycle? How long it was waiting for the CPU? And how long it was executed on the CPU? Okay. What you can say turnaround time is equal to waiting time plus burst time. How long your process was waiting for the CPU? How long it was executing on the CPU? Together, we will be calling it as a turnaround time. It is a complete cycle. Okay. Waiting time plus burst time. It is a complete cycle of one process. Okay, so your process P1 arrived at 1 and it gets completed at 6. So it was alive in the cycle for 5 units of time. What is the waiting time of your process P1? Waiting time is equal to turnaround time minus burst time. Okay, you can find out the waiting time here is equal to turnaround time minus burst time. How long your process was alive in the cycle? The total time minus how long it was executed on the CPU. Okay, so you will be getting your waiting time. If you look at in this case, your process P1 didn't wait any time for CPU. As it is coming in the main memory, it was given CPU on the spot. It didn't wait any time to get the CPU. So, waiting time is 0. Okay, waiting time is equal to total time minus burst time. And what is the response time of process P1? When it was given CPU for the first time, your process P1 is arriving in the main memory at 1. Okay, as it is coming in the main memory, it is given first time response from the CPU. Okay, it was given first time response from the CPU at 1. So it didn't wait any time after its arrival to get the response from CPU. Okay, so what is my response time? 0. We have discussed in first come first serve and shortest of first if your algorithm is non-primitive. Okay, if your algorithm is non-primitive, then your waiting time and response time is going to be equal. Okay, our waiting time and response time is equal in case of non-primitive algorithm. Okay, we have also discussed their reason why in non-primitive algorithm waiting time is equal to response time. Okay, next we have process P2. Process P2 arrival time is 2. Okay, arrival time is 2 and what is the completion time of your process P2? 15. It is arriving in the main memory at 2 but it is getting completed at 15. Okay, and how long your process has been alive in the cycle? It arrived in the main memory at 2 and it get completed at 15. So it was alive in the cycle for 13 units of time. Okay, and what is the waiting time? Out of this total time 13, your process was executing on CPU just for 4 units. The remaining 9 units it was waiting for the CPU. If you look at here, your process P2 arrived in the main memory at 2. But it was given CPU at 11. It had to wait for 9 units of time to get to the CPU. Okay, so 9. And our response time is also going to be similar to waiting time. So, process P2, what is the response time? We have 9. Okay, because after its arrival, you are giving its CPU at 11. It was waiting for 9 units of time before getting the CPU. It was given first response time from CPU after 9 units of its arrival. So, 9. Okay. What is the what is the waiting time of process P3? Your process P3 is arriving in the main memory at 3 and it is given CPU at 6. Okay, it is given CPU at 6. It is arriving in the main memory at 3 and it is given CPU at 6. So it had to wait for 3 units of time to get the CPU. Okay, so my waiting time is 3. Even if you subtract turnaround time minus burst time, you will get 3. And our response time is also going to be 3. Okay, because after its arrival, it was given first time response from CPU after 3 units. So, my response time is going to be 3. Now, process P4. What is the completion time of process P4? 11. What is the turnaround time of process P4? Completion time minus arrival time. Okay, so 7. This is going to be my turnaround time, 7. And what is the waiting time? Your process P4 is present in the main memory at 4 and it was given CPU at 8. It waited for 4 units of time to get the CPU. Okay, it had to wait for 4 units of time. Okay, even if you subtract turnaround time minus burst time, you will get your waiting time. Okay, and what is the response time of process P4? Process P4, it is coming in the main memory at 4 and it is given response by the CPU at 8 for the first time. Okay, so how long it wait for CPU after its arrival time? 4 units. Okay, so 4. Okay, so we have discussed this priority scheduling algorithm for non-preemptive. Okay, if you are going to do preemption in priority scheduling algorithm, like we discussed in the shortest remaining time first, after each and every unit of CPU time, you will be checking how many number of processes are coming in the main memory and what is their priority. Okay, in preemption at each and every point of time, you will be looking at the main memory. You will be checking the priorities of all the processes present in the main memory. Okay, if your currently executing process has less priority than the processes present in the main memory, then you will be switching your CPU to the process having highest priority. Okay, in case of preemption, our waiting time and response time doesn't match. Okay, but as it is a non-preemptive algorithm, our waiting time and response time is equal. Why waiting time and response time is different in preemption algorithm? Because you will be assigning your CPU to one process many number of times. Okay, in non-preemption, we just assign CPU to process only once. When it has been completely executed, you will be deallocating the CPU. But in preemption, again and again, you assign your CPU to your process. Okay, so that's why our waiting time and response time is different. Response time means after the arrival of any process, how long it waited to get the first time response from CPU. Okay, it just focus on the first time of CPU. While your waiting time focus on the overall time. How long your process waiting overall for CPU. Okay, it comes under overall waiting. It comes under just your first response time from CPU. That is the reason that we are getting same waiting time and response time in non-preemptive algorithm. Okay, so I hope that you are clear with priority scheduling algorithm. If you have any query, I have mentioned my email ID in the description box. If you like my video, please like, share and subscribe my channel.